More better?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so dig this. First and foremost, showing all honor and respect to the ancestors, to the ones that came here before we did, and also making sure that we are standing in the gap for the generations that come after. We came here today to speak on the Courthouse thefts, myself, Luke Casey, and Ania Okereke, to make clear some very, very important things. One of the things that we find to be most important is this key fact. We are not the only group or only generation that finally got fed up with slavery and with the oppression of the white populace. In actuality, slavery started somewhere around 1609 and has persisted for many, many years. And up until 1791, a formal rejection or rebellion of African people had not happened. But when Toussaint Louverture and his group of proud Africans on that island of Haiti came together to fight off this system of economics called slavery, that was the turning point. That was the first group that we could say that formalized that resistance. So first and foremost, we want to be clear. We are not the very first group of Africans on American soil or anybody else's soil, any other colonial colony soil, to be fully upset and fully ready to deal with this issue of economics that folks call capitalism, but we know as slavery. Now, let me get something clear about Haiti in particular. In 1791, the rebellion began. By 1794, they had already beaten back the French and had already created an alliance with the Spanish. But here's what you don't know. It took until 1925 for Haiti to be recognized as an actual country by any Western European country whatsoever. And the reason for that is because they would not let go of their economic stranglehold on the island of Haiti. They fought hard and they won against the French. They won against the Spanish. They actually pitted the two countries against each other. Matter of fact, the Louisiana Purchase is predicated on the reality that the Haitians won. You see, Napoleon could no longer finance the operations of dominance on the European continent any longer because he lost the money that he was making on the island of Haiti. So the economic reality clearly is what usually defeats the European monster or the European oppression. But what you gotta understand is that this is economic oppression before it is anything else. You have to understand that when folks are working on oppression, the very worst thing that they can see happen is to lose one of the bodies that they were using for slavery. So until you can understand that when you see police violence is a symptom of a economic system that has been broken. It is a symptom of an oppressive regime that has been broken. So you got to get hip to what's happening. So when things are peaceful like they are here in the city of South Bend, that is because their system of oppression is functioning just fine. And we gotta understand that if we don't want to see a Milwaukee, if we don't want to see a Baltimore, if we don't want to see a Ferguson, if we don't want to see a Watts, if we don't want to see a Cincinnati, if you don't want to see us lurking on your city streets and sitting on your courthouse steps more frequently, then we're going to have to do something about the economics here in the city of South Bend. Now, what does that mean and why are we here? The reason that we are here is because we have seen how the economic systems in the city of South Bend have been working. We have petitioned time after time to make sure that we have black inclusion inside of all of the institutions that are happening inside of this city. And time after time, they have relegated us to the back of the bus, to the back of the line. So now what do we see? We see a group of Africans petitioning to make sure that Africans show up on the police force. But instead what happens is that we get no African representation of our police force on our city streets, not on our African communities. We petition and ask hard to make sure that we would have black representation inside of our school and educational systems. And what happens? We get black teachers, but we're not actually able to harness the power of those black teachers because, why? because you created your core standards that centered around rebuilding and reinforcing your white supremacist economic structures. And we not finna keep on standing around watching. The shit is getting way out of hand. The reality of the situation is that in 2016, as well as in 1863, the only thing Africans are being educated on is how to serve white folks better. We can look down at the ground right before us. Go ahead, Nia, give them a little shot of look at what it looks like right down there on the ground before us. Those economic...
Yeah, come listen to it.
Oh, I'm listening. Please don't give me.
Those roads, these improvements are an economic stimulus package for that building right there. Why don't you give them another shot of that? So as you can see, city government is working just fine. It's not an issue of whether or not there's a thing that needs to be fixed within this system. In all reality is the contrapositive of that. The reality is that the reason why you are suffering, the reason that there is suffering going on, has everything to do with the fact that the system is being effective. That building over there, they gave a $31 million tax abatement to. Meanwhile, we sat and watched a man who had been in business for over 30 years commit suicide because the federal government was ready to seize not only his assets, but also to seize his business. And I'm talking about O'Neill's Funeral Home. They were willing to give a $30 million tax abatement to the creation of the Loft Apartment Center. But meanwhile, we have to stand by and watch as the elders of our community, the staples of our community, the ability for us to bury our own dead was stripped from our community, not to mention the life that was lost. And that's what continuously happens inside of this community. In the same capacity, we're looking at an education system that has been specifically designed to push young black males and young black females into nothing but servitude. Every time we look up, our students are being taught the trigonometry by which we can now build the buildings for Cisco, for Johnson & Johnson, for Pfizer, for Walmart. That's all that this entire process is about. This is the reason why government invests millions and millions of dollars into their infrastructure. They are doing it so that they can become more marketable to other industries. But the one thing that is incredible is that we have been here as blacks and minorities for this long, and you haven't begun to invest in our infrastructure. And we have sat by idly. But I tell you what, if the reality check hasn't hit yet by the way of our activities of our brothers and sisters throughout the nation, maybe it'll start to register and ring a little bit more true when things start to go awry here inside of this community. You don't understand that the police officers are looking at black men and black women as targets because we are not the stewards of any industry, because they don't realize that we actually have a vetted position within this community. Every time we look up, we are demonized. But the reason why we can't change that narrative is because the South Bend City Council, as well as the mayor's office, because the city council is the one who is responsible for approving the budgets for every city department. They sit by idly, the 7 of them or the 6 of them, and they watch as tax dollars, the ones that we equally contribute. So here's a quick and fun fact for everybody who doesn't know. They say that black folks don't pay taxes because we get refunds. Just so you know, that's not an assessment of our actual spending power. And what we have grown to realize is that they are reaping our tax dollars off of every purchase that we make to the tune of 7 cents on each dollar. They take 7 cents on each dollar, but holler that we as black African people don't pay taxes. Well, I got news for you. We are paying our taxes, and we want... See, this ain't a lottery. We're not hoping to win the sweepstakes. We paid into this system with our blood, sweat, and our tears, plus our dollars. And what happened in return was that the city government reneged. They are the ones who feel like we are infringing on their opportunities to do well. They are the ones who feel a sense of entitlement to every penny of the tax dollars that we get. So they stand firm in the idea that, oh, you guys are asking for a handout. No, we handed you out dollar after dollar, penny after penny, and in turn, you absorbed every piece of those tax dollars. And I'm not going to sit here and play stupid. I'm not afraid to say black, because I know that this is who you guys are afflicting. I know that's my community. I'm seeing the bodies drop. I'm seeing the little brothers that are walking around here with high truancy. You think that we don't understand that the 1 million hours of instruction time that was lost by young African boys in the city of South, 98% of the school expulsions were given to black men. Why is that? Because they have no investment, they have no vested interest in the educational system that strips all of their efforts from their community. Who wants to become a trader? Which one of our young black men are we supposed to raise into becoming traders? They want to work for their community, and the reason why you can't get their attention for a moment has to do with two things happening inside of the educational structure here in the city of South Bend. And I hope Dr. Kevin Spales is getting this, brother, because if you come in here to work, you better work. We did not come here, we did not petition, we did not ask for you to come here to then not represent us. There's a reason why they wanted your brown face up there on this system. And it's so that you can come here and serve this black population that is in desperate need of this help. But let me get back to the 2 points that are so key to what's happening inside of our education system. See, there's one problem, like I just iterated, which is that none of the curriculum is structured to actually help to build. There's not been one solid study that has inquired into what the black community of South Bend needs. So there's no possible way that you know what to educate our students on. So our students have no interest in it because their mamas and daddies know that they can't get no dividends off of their child coming through your school system. And the second part of it that is even more appalling is that it used to be 85% white women that were teaching all young black boys. Now the percentage has gone up to almost 93%. So how is it that you are going to teach a young blossoming young black man how to be a strong black man and not emasculate him while keeping him silent, not moving, and under the instruction of a white woman? Now, if you think that that's racially charged, I agree with you. Because I know that you locked out our black students that were coming through the higher education program. I know that you locked them out. We know what the founding of unions was about. It was about trying to exclude the black worker, the black slave, when they were coming out of that enslavement process. You formed your unions then. You think we don't know the origins of the AFL-CIO? You think we don't know about Sam Grouper and his white supremacist mindset? You think we don't know that these unions were formed to keep blacks out of the actual trades that they were trained up in? You think we don't know that even in the present day situation and circumstances, we see a complete blackballing of black professionals? Do you realize how many black professionals in the city of South Bend right now are walking around here with degrees and no jobs? What does that say? That says another two things. It says that we don't need to continue to petition other bodies. No. We don't need to continue to petition Walmart. We're not going to go on a tirade with Hacienda. We're going to keep it a buck. We want our own institutions inside of the city, and we paid enough in the way of tax dollars to have had that happen. That's what your job is to do with this situation that we call government. We already gave you our buy-in. We gave you our dollars. We gave you our pennies. Now we want a return on our investment. And for the blacks, we have to get serious about trade. And I know that we don't own any commodities, but human capital is real. The blood, the sweat, the 8 hours you spend away from your family is real. So we need to tighten the reins. Either we're going to be compensated on an hourly basis in a way that makes it easier for us to put 3 square meals on the table to provide our children with health, to provide our children with a sense of security? Or we need to pull back the labor force. It is time for us to reconsider those ideas that they were talking about in the 20s. See, you don't understand that in 1930, the Eigenman Swimming Hall, the Civil Rights Heritage Center for IUSB, that whole building, the reason why it is such a hub for civil rights is because in the 1930s, they had to fight because the same thing was happening to them. So we're not here just to protest and petition no more. Now it's time for us to get smarter. Because what they decided and what their utterance is what I'm now repeating to you. They said that if our tax dollars are going as a state to make sure that that swimming pool stays open and it comes from every citizen inside of this community, then we all should have access to that pool. Well, we all want access to the money pool then. We all want